everybody, and welcome to our 7th or 8th Meet the Mover webinar. We're back at it again with Home Safe Alliance Part 2 after the rate filing, and we're ready to go with a juicy one, you guys, because we don't just have one, two, three. We got three special guests today, plus our host, Mario Reyes. Hold on, let me give you guys a little brief of how this has got to go down. We are revolutionizing the relocation industry, and we are so excited today. We have almost 100 years worth of moving experience with Isabel Schmidt, Steve Meyer, and Adam Whitfield, you guys. Hey, let me just give you a little brief on who each of these individuals are. Isabel Schmidt, moving veteran, president of Logging Military Moving Systems, and she's a wonderful human being. Steve Meyer, I know you guys see JFD in his brief bio. That means just an effing driver, honestly, and we love that because that's what all he's about. He's all about the brass tacks. We're super excited. And then, of course, without any further ado, Adam Whitfield, thank you for joining on. And lastly, Mario Reyes. We have all three of them on here right now. Let's give them a big, warm welcome, you guys. We're so excited because this is what the moving industry is all about. The experts, the guys who are on the ground, the men and women on the ground doing exactly what they're supposed to do. I think we have representation of every single part of the moving industry, and we're super excited because we're just getting right to it. Hey, I'm getting off the stage. I'm going to leave it to the experts, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us.
All right, Justin, thank you for the introduction, and thanks for all the guests. I just thought we'd do a part 2. We had a lot of engagement for part 1. And, there's a lot of emotions out there right now. And so I just thought, hey, I've known pretty much everyone on on this forum for a while. And I said, we need to get a boots on the ground operator show. We were going to do a exclusive ownership, but Isabel has a great background because she's been in the military herself as an officer. Her husband's still in the military, and actually she's doing a move right now, I think, by herself. Of her own personal contents, and so that's something else. And Steve has been in the industry for over 30 years, and so has Adam. So I just thought, hey, let's start off by I'm going to start off with, and normally if anyone's ever been here, what I like to talk about is I like to have everyone say what they want to say or push what they're going to push, or I'm more of just a conduit, and then I kind of go along and see how it goes. But anyway, I wanted to start off with Isabel. How you doing? Thank you for joining, and tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what's on your mind. We got the rate filing that just went on, and yeah, tell me what you think.
Yeah, hi. So number one, thank you for inviting me to come and have a little chat-see with you guys. What I have on my mind, so I'm a military spouse. You said that, right? And I'm in the middle of my own PPM. I just want to remind folks, right, that this, you might think that you kind of know what we go through. There's no explaining it when you're in the thick of it, and then especially if you feel like you're not forced, I don't want to say that word, but if you feel like you're going to opt to do a PPM because you want to take control, you can't control the things you can't control. So now we're dealing with a PPM where my husband broke his foot.
Oh, wow.
So you don't expect that stuff, but the hits are going to keep on coming. And we're just now getting into it. I have a senior in high school. And so there's a lot of moving pieces already for me to begin with, right? And then you start to throw in the things that we all know as movers, right? That happen, things that just happen, or ways that you run out of space when you thought, or boxes that you thought that you were done picking up dish pack, and you're God dang it, I need another friggin' dish pack. So I guess what I want to say is the PPM, right? The PPM is already really hard. And then to have the rates take a nosedive the way that they did, which don't essentially allow for a family to take full control or hire out a mover. It would have been great to be hey, Steve, can you just pack and load me and take me down there? But now that the rates change and we've got to get our house sold earlier rather than later, it just throws it just throws you into this headspace that's not entirely healthy. I've gone through every single emotion, even as a person who can control about as much of it as I can control, because I know where the resources are. It's not cool. It's just not cool that those rates have gone into the dirt, and they really just give you one option, no touch. We'll probably talk on that later, but that's really the angle that I kind of wanted to touch on today. So, but thanks for having me. I appreciate being here.
No. That's good. So let me ask you this: how far are you into your move? I mean, are you halfway, quarter way, third way?
This is my basement. Everything. So we've packed. So we're doing a containerized shipment because, like I said, we have to move, and we don't know. We have to get a house sold on one end, right? I can kind of control a little bit of that. I can't control when it sells, so I need to get a house on the other side, which means I don't know how much storage I will need. I wasn't going to tie up Steve's trailer, or Anthony had offered to move us, but I can't tie up a trailer for that long. I can no longer afford to go into NTS storage because the way that that's being reimbursed now on the PPM side makes no sense at all, right? So they're giving you like $800 to store yourself, but with that $800, you're supposed to rent the unit and get the labor to go in and out and all those things, and it just doesn't work out. So I'm testing, Steve and I, like we're testing out containerized shipments because we've got a ton of shipments this summer, and with the rates being the way that they are, we're just not sure what those moves are. We're not sure if all drivers are going to be like, yeah, sure, I'll take that at that crazy discount. So we've got to be prepared. And so I started to containerize it. I've got I tried a pod. I'm trying a pack rack. The first two floors are empty. The painters are going to paint, right? Because I got to get this thing sold. We're all living in the basement. We are going to go to a hotel for 2 nights because paint, right? Like you want to. So that's kind of where I am. I'm in the middle of.
Wow.
There's a third container coming tomorrow because we couldn't quite get everything in those 2, even though we had like really great crews loaded right here out of the DC area. Yeah, that's where I am, in the middle.
So it's actually okay if you don't know if you're going to go into storage, and then you can container and then drop right out in front of the new house. So that's actually not a bad. So it reduced some handling. So that's not bad, right?
Well, that's why we're doing it, because I don't know when we're going to need it, and I can. What I want is to reduce the touch, right? I don't need it. I don't want it offloaded and then reloaded, and I don't want it sitting on a warehouse floor, right? Because I know what that means if you don't have a really great warehouse, right? So we containerized it because then I can just call it forward when we finally have a house on the other side.
Right.
We don't have a house yet, but I can call it forward. It'll come. It won't have been touched again. I know who handled it coming out of the DC area. I already know who's going to touch it in Fayetteville. I just have to book, that at a later date.
Many people think that, like relocation, I mean, in our industry, we've been talking about it for about 15 or 20 years. That's the future anyway. It's going to be containerized shipments, reduces handling. The only thing about it is, I'm a cloth wrap guy. I came out of cloth wrap instead of paper wrap. And even though cloth wrap, I mean, some people will say moving is moving, but cloth wrap, according to paper wrap, it's almost like tap dancing and ballet. They're both dancing, but it is a little bit different. And so, yeah.
It's
What's
better.
that?
It's better. Like, it's better than paper pad. I'm lucky because Steve is part of our team, right? So Steve loaned me blankets. That's not what other people are going to have, right? They're not going to have that option.
No.
So what HomeSafe hasn't really put into that equation is understanding that the material need is going to be higher, because if you, in lieu of those cloth pads, right, you're going to use paper and you're going to use cardboard sheeting. But when you do that, you're adding time to a move. You've added material.
Absolutely.
Expense factor. That's what's missing in all of that, right? Like,
no, I agree with you. I think
it's safe to assume that HomeSafe isn't too worried about cost, money, or anything else. I think at this point that's been made pretty clear, right? Higher cost to the operator, higher cost to the company. It hasn't seemed very important, right?
That we don't know. I've only it's like, because we participate on the cloth side, so we don't do any of the conditional crate and freight. But I would say, right now cloth, we don't do any crated shipments or any overseas stuff for them. It's always been like, it didn't matter under what program or what rate. I didn't really care for doing paper pads anyway, even when I did international on the commercial side, just because my guys weren't really set up for it. Like the learning curve took a long time to do. I don't know about you guys, if you guys are wrapped all in paper, but it's a little bit harder to do. I mean, the crews are different. If you're like in Hawaii, those guys wrap paper all day long. In fact, they're like fast. You get a cloth crew and then you try to get paper. Or if they just do internationals, they're quick. I mean, I've been overseas and I saw some guys in China one time and they were good and they used paper and cardboard and they were real good. And one time in Japan too, I saw some good work. And then seeing over years of the stuff coming back to us, the overseas guys have it kind of down, but I don't. Like, unless you specialize in it, like there's a company called La Rosa Del Monte out of New York. Those guys are pretty good. They do a lot of stuff from New York to Puerto Rico or New York. Actually, they're international, but they do a lot of good stuff too. But it's different, and everyone doesn't realize that. It really is different. Steve.
Well, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Steve, how you doing today, man? Thanks for joining.
I'm just getting older. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Let me ask you this, Steve. Tell us how you got in the moving business? Give a little bit of history real quick before we start off and jump into it.
Just friends and family. Following family. That's it. It's just that simple. Fun job. No two jobs the same. It was a whole lot better when I was young. Now my knees hurt and such, and hemorrhoids are starting to bother me. But other than that, I still like the job and meet people and changing people's lives and stuff. So I enjoy it.
It's always
everything.
Yeah, I agree.
I've done Code 4. I've done international straight into the cans, office moves, that kind of stuff. So I've done it all. I've sat behind a desk, all those kind of things. So I've kind of wore every hat in the industry, and I just find it easier just to be worried about one truck, one dude, myself. So that's
where did you start to move? Where did you start to move furniture at, Steve? Where'd you come from?
In the DC area. Started in DC.
All right. No, that's great. That's great. Adam Whitfield.
Yes.
Thanks for joining again. Can you just give a brief thing where you started in the moving business and how just a brief overview?
Yeah, like I found out I was going to have a child. I guess that was 31 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I got a job at NorCal moving and storage, and I started cutting debris.
Oh, wow.
I might age myself. I was making a whopping $7.50 an hour back then.
That was a good wage.
That was a great wage. I don't even know if that gets you a Coke out of a vending machine anymore.
No.
But yeah, obviously big, huge like they're a monster. But mostly I was doing commercial work. Like
that's like office moving things there.
Yeah, they're the king of the Bay Area with the commercial side. So, and then I went to Chipman, and then cash guy, driver. Kind of been around a little bit.
Nice. Okay, so what's your feelings? What's your predictions on, what the military families are going to look forward to in the summer? Let's start off with Isabel. Or no, we'll just go around the horn. But no, you know what? Go ahead, Adam. Tell me what you think.
I don't think any military family's looking forward to anything this summer. Like, I don't know if that's quite the way to put it. I don't know. Like, guy loaded yesterday said, I looked into a Diddy move, and he was going to come out of pocket, and last minute changed it, and it again, we dealt with the survey last minute. I don't know. I don't know how this is going to be a smooth transition. There's obviously quite a bit of chaos in the whole system, or both systems really at this point. So I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting.
I think
is that a word?
Yeah, no. I think it's going to be. I agree with you. I think it's going to be different. It's going to be challenging. I mean, like that's a PC way to put it. it's going to be challenging, man. I mean, it's
maybe
like
painful. Like that might be another word.
Yeah, I mean,
And it's really unfortunate. Like ultimately, everybody knows the member is going to be the one that suffers, and I mean, I'm just going to do my best and make it as painless as possible. I mean,
right. That's all we can do. That's all we can do as service drivers. I go, like I said before, like I haven't like not said any like I'm on both sides of the fence. I'm with the old program and I do the new program, and to me, it's just moving. And it's like let's hold the customers first, and that's it. And it's like, and the client, or you may say the service member or whatever, but it's like I just say, hey, we're moving families, and we have to stick to that. The industry, I think, as a whole, right now, is in flux. I don't think that anyone has ever seen it. Like, I think this is like probably since 2008. This is probably the worst or the hardest it's been, or the most challenging, if you want to put it so to speak. Or if you're a national account guy, I would say right after 9/11, we flatlined. Like there was no accounts, no nothing moving. That was real tough. But the last, I think it was
this is 08 on steroids.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say so. I think that like anything else, it always gets bigger. Like the mortgage crisis that happened a few years ago, or back then, 08, there was a savings and loans crisis prior to that, maybe 15, 20 years before that. And that wasn't as big as the next one, and it always grows. I think that everything's going to grow exponentially bigger. But you know what? It's challenges. It's just like you said, I started at $3.35 an hour. When I was, like me, and it's like everyone would laugh at that today. So it's always going to get bigger, the numbers, but the challenges are still the same.
What, you're like 36, right?
Yeah, I know. No, I'm like, yeah. Oh man, Isabel, what do you think? What's your
Well, for Adam, the trick is to tell people you're older, because then they tell you, oh, you look great. Tell them you look 29.
Oh no, I'll tell everybody I'm 60, man. I'm like
I go with 52. I'm like, I'm 52. And you look great. Because if I'm like out there going, I'm 29, they're like, you look road hard, put away wet. So what do I think? I think that nothing compares. We all know, everyone in this conversation knows that nothing compares to a driver going door to door with your shipment, right? With those beautiful pads, that gorgeous trailer, a team that's going to load it like beautifully. What we all have to do at this point, because we don't have a choice, we've been pigeonholed, is we have to adapt, because if we don't adapt, we die. And even with us, right, Steve and Wendy and I at Logs and Mill Moves, like we're having to make very hard decisions every day about how it is we're going to execute, because if we cannot invite those drivers at the rates, right, that customers have, or even when they go out of pocket, like Adam said, and I will tell you right now, they're doing it because they want a really good move. And so we're able to provide for them in that way, but they also want to know, they want those guarantees that we give them, right? Like you're going to get a great driver and everything's going to go swell. And then those drivers on the other side agree to that, right? They talk to Steve and they go, yep, I got it. Like I'm going to take care of this customer. I think with HomeSafe, right? So we have to adapt. What HomeSafe did in the beginning was that they came out of the gate sort of angry and mean, and sort of saying like, sorry, I remember the quote, it was, sorry, van lines, but you're dead. We don't need you in our new model. And that wasn't the right way to invite an entire industry that works as a collective and as a network, because we all know here, right? Like, yeah, you got a shipment from A to B, but if you don't have a backhaul from B to A or from B to C to A, things get very tricky very fast when you're trying to run, especially a small business. And so we all rely on each other in terms of that network. And that network is made up of drivers and laborers. And so when you come out of the gate and you tell the move management folks, right, the ones who, they're not on the ground like we are, but they kind of understand some of it, and they definitely understand the network, right? When you come out of the gate and you say, we don't really need you anymore, we got this all figured out ourselves, you're not inviting collaboration. And I think that's what happened. For them to say that this is an industry problem is also very misplaced, because we all know that the HomeSafe shipments that are going right, because there are HomeSafe shipments that are going right, they're getting loaded beautifully by those same crews, right? that's industry. It's the very same industry that they're saying is trash. On the one end, they're going, "Oh, these guys are all trash," but then they're utilizing those same guys, right, to do some of that really good work. The problem was volume. They couldn't handle the volume. Why? Because they said that we don't need this big collective network that the van lines have. So they blew that apart, and then they want to be angry with industry, but they have to rely on industry to do the work because they've gone out to try to train newbies, and those newbies aren't coming back because we all know, those of us here who have done it, this shit is hard. Like, there is nothing harder than doing, like, this week I hate my life, right? I have a great life, but like, it is not easy packing your entire house yourself. Now, I got help with the load because Pete broke his foot, and because we have really great teams that we work with here in this area. But I think that if they were to hit the magic button and say, you know what, we're really sorry, we want to figure out how to work with you guys, we'll try to make sure that this next time we come to you and say, what do you need to execute this work? We'll add our profit margin and go from there. They came out all backwards. They're like, we know what's best for you. We know how much you need. And that's not true. We're all operating different businesses. Mario, you operate in California. I dread ever operating in California.
Oh my God.
Your labor is far more expensive than it even is for us in a high market, right? In a really good market area like Virginia. You've got other problems, right? That you have to
deal with. We've got a ton of issues.
Well, yeah, labor is high, but you save on the building rent, right?
Oh yeah, it's like twice as much.
Yeah, and then you got to worry about getting sued. So okay, so we have to adapt, right? The answer to your question is like, what do? We adapt. We're all Logs and Momos is figuring out how to adapt because yes, we want drivers. We prefer them. They do the best job, but our customers don't have those budgets. The drivers are like, sorry, I need X, and if you can't meet me at X, then I got to find a new solution for those families. And then for HomeSafe, they've got to find the magic button to say, hey, sorry, yeah, we kind of came at this all wrong. We do want to work with you guys. We're going to adjust, what it is that we're doing. And they can still do that. It's just at any time that anyone's called them on the carpet about it, they get very defensive and they just they're not about it. If you've got, and you guys know this, there are movers that have gone back and said, well, hey, let's do some work together. And they will literally pull up old social media posts and say, really? Because this is how you felt a few weeks ago. I mean, like, what is that? Like, what grade are we in?
Yeah, I don't know. I just, what? I've always been the black sheep. I've always been like, I said, like the last webinar, I said, I got treated really well by National Forwarding. Like, they've been great. Like Van Lines Forwarding, Tim, Mike, Mark, Mike, all those guys, anybody that I forget, blame my head, not my heart. Angie, all the ladies, Eileen, of course I can't, go without mentioning Eileen. And there's other ladies around the industry, Krisha, if you're listening, or even Jeanette, whatever. Like all those people had a hand in my success. But a lot of the companies, a lot of the TSPs, I didn't get any recognition from. And I'm pretty much the largest hauler in the Salinas, Monterey, in the Naval Postgraduate School area. But I didn't get any, particular love, and I had to fight my way through old program, even new program. I actually reached out to Natasha from HomeSafe and said, hey, let me see what's going on with this stuff. Because I felt like eventually, just talking to a lot of the old timers from the TOPS program, I said, okay, if it's going to happen, and if this is their program, it's almost a little bit like, when we got to that age and we're still living at home. And I don't know about you guys, but my father was like, you may want to get your own place. And so, we're in like someone else's house or someone else's like thing, and you're just like, okay, all right, tell us. And you have to work with everyone and say, okay, what can we do to make it right and make it known? Everybody's, but I had an old GM. He said, sometimes it's the golden rule, Mario. And I said, what's the golden rule? He who has the gold rules. And I was like, ooh, okay. Yeah. And so, I mean, like, so that's where, like, a lot of people, like, I had darts from the industry thrown at me. And one of my friends called me Tin Cup because he thought I was getting kicked in the cojones, all the time. And I was, but I never answered back in a bad way, because this is a great country. And just like your husband and you did when you were a member, and any of the members that are members or even spouses, because I actually consider the spouses, I mean, like, I'm going to get slammed by the government. I think the spouses should get a retirement too, because it's like, I mean, I don't say that, but like, I mean, it's because it's hard, you know what I mean? But,
so unlike security, if Pete died, like if we get out of service and we don't pay into something called survivor benefit plan, he can serve 20 years. He can die like some of our friends 6 months after they retire. I'm not kidding. And then the spouse is out if they didn't purchase into survivor benefit program.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Nothing.
I mean, like in a good scenario, and I don't know numbers, but yeah, that's what I think. But like, hey, I'm an old school guy. I think teachers should make more money. They don't, you know what I mean? Educators, things of that nature. But it's just the way it is, unfortunately. It's like my brother-in-law is an attorney and my wife is a physician. And my brother-in-law made more money than my wife. My wife saved lives. My brother-in-law may have ruined some lives. So I just like, it's just the way it is. You know what I mean? Like, we idolize sports figures, this and that, and the people out every day. Like, I mean, there's certain things we can't change. I mean, that's just the way they have a special skill and talent, and you know what I mean? God bless them. And there's not too much we can do about it. So I just felt like a little bit about that's the way about the program. I'm going to get to you, Steve, in a second, because I know we haven't been paying attention to you, but that's the way I felt, is like, okay, what can I do to like understand it? And because I thought it was coming and I need to adapt and pivot. And unfortunately, I've been in the business for over 40 years. I thought to myself, I said, I've seen this before, not this program, but I've seen like hard times, and what can we do to keep like my company and my guys and my families fed? And so then that's why we joined. And hey, it's been good. I mean, it's been bad, it's been good, it's been like, but I could say that like in the legacy program too, like it's been bad and it's been good. And and that's why I'm always like I feel like I'm the voice of reason. You know what I mean? Like, I can point out 10 things wrong with Home Safe, and I can point out 10 things wrong with this current legacy system. But I think that, some people say, hey, it just doesn't pay enough, which, like, to be honest with you, unless it was a few years ago when we had those 25% discounts, I don't think like any of it pays really what it should, just because of the way, how many times, just like you pointed out, how many times we actually handle a shipment. Like, it's like the claims liability, things of that nature. And the summers, and I said this on my first show, the summers have shrunk so much that, it's not like we can train and get guys, up to speed, because it's an eclectic business. No two moves are alike. And, we haven't really standardized a lot of our processes in the industry, and it's hard to get guys that want to do it. Now, on the other side of it, industries failed on getting young people in. I really believe that. Like, and I'll say that. And the reason why I say it is because, and I mentioned this in my last show, so I've got a friend of mine. It's like he's at JK, Davey Shenko. Hopefully I can have him on as a guest. Went to UW as a helper, worked at Seattle Grable, got hired out of there, went into dispatch, became operations manager, then became a general manager, and then now he's like a vice president of operations. But we haven't presented that, hey, you can make a living. I know salespeople that make $400,000 or $500,000 a year in commission in the moving business. And a lot of people don't realize that there is a viable option to make money in the business. And no, you don't have to be on the trucks every day. And a lot of us that were rank and file, I'm a rank and file guy. You saw my son there. He moved furniture when he was younger. He'd come with me on the trucks. But like, a lot of movers are like, I don't want my children to do anything to do with this. Well, I always say I want my son in the business because at least he has some connection to the business. And a lot of guys that are rank and file said, hey, do something else. Don't even get involved with this. But instead of saying, hey, become a lawyer, but become a transportation lawyer. You want to become a doctor, you can set up a DOT clinic. Things of that nature, to be still connected to the business, because they can say, I remember my father went through this and he wanted this, and he's going to be a better provider because he kind of stayed within industry. If you look at a lot of sports athletes, and you really dig down to even educated people, I mean, like real advanced degrees, you look at their parents, they had a PhD. So it's not really that surprise that, oh yeah, this guy came out the slums or whatever. I'm not going to keep on going on about that, but I wanted to say, Steve, we just said like what our thoughts are about the industry about this summer. What's your thoughts there, young man?
Well, quite honestly, this summer is going to be like two blind drunks leading a toddler through Disney World. So, you know, they're talking about going to save money, and they're just not. They're going to end up doing like 17, 18, where they had to order the stuff into non-temp stores to get it off the street. That's going to cost them $50, $60, $100. Some line driver's going to come in and pick it up a month or two later when it delivers direct. And, you know, they're going to have to pay that. People are going to go one time only rate. I mean, it's just a whole bunch of things that are going to go and really going to screw up this summer for the service members. They really have no idea. I mean, essentially, a lot of people's houses are going to end up just being flea markets, or actually eBay wholesale houses, because they ran off the good people in the industry, you know, by the way they've just handled everything. I can speak for myself, and I mean this, and you can mark this, and I guess this would be on the internet forever. I don't care if Home Safe Alliance gets another $4 billion. I will not service a shipment as a subcontractor to Home Safe Alliance. I will not do it. They genuinely don't care about the people. They genuinely don't care about them. And it sickens me to believe and understand that there's all these retired people and all these spouses that they're hiring, and that these people can stomach what's going on in that company. And I know what's going on. There's people inside the company that talk to me, and there's people that work for the company that talk to me and share information with me. So it's just it's really bad. I mean, Transcom has just beat us this year like we're a rented mule. And unfortunately, the people that are going to suffer are our military families. And we don't look at them. The only time we think about our military is when we got somebody who might come over here and disturb the American way of life. Until then, they're just like a cash cow for everybody, and everybody says, "Oh, well, they knew what they was getting into," and I don't feel that same way about it. I'm not saying that every military service member, every member is a saint, but there's far greater Americans in the United States military than there's shitbirds. So, and I think they deserve better. And unfortunately, you know, they're as usual, our military is the heel, you know, and that's been the case since you know, quite honestly, since the Korean War. So that's my opinion on that.
If you could wave your magic wand, the next question is for any panelist. If you could wave, what would you do to fix the current process? What would you guys do? Everybody's going to have a shot at this. Let's start off with Adam.
Oh. I mean, the obvious fix is throw money at it. Like, usually it fixes just about everything. If you go back in time, every other program that's was failing, how'd they revive it? It wasn't thoughts and prayers, it was throw money at it. I mean, that would be the ultimate fix. How to really get it done? I don't think a one source, one throat to choke approach was really necessary. Magic wand, small group of military personnel, DoD, Transcom personnel, bring in civilian contractors and take the third set of money-making hands out of the whole program. Overpay civilian contractors within the industry with oversight. You probably save the government, you probably save the military some money and comp the industry enough to make everybody viable. That would probably be my magic wand fix. I just don't think there's enough money for the third set of, like, the government wants to save money, the industry wants to make money. There's no room for the third set of hands. That would be my magic wand fix. I don't see that happening at this point. So I guess really, and this will probably, going back to what Steve said, it's going to cost a lot of money at the end of this summer. I guess that's the route. Throw money at it. And unfortunately, they're probably running enough people out of this. They're going to be throwing good money at bad service at the end of it as well.
Yeah.
It's gonna end up being a full debacle. I'm in it. I can say the last 2 shipments I've loaded, the bar has been set so low now, and there's been so much chatter within the military community.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that when they saw a normal guy show up after everything they've heard about the whole home safe GHC part of this, when they saw somebody protecting their floors and everybody was in uniform and somebody showed up that actually cared, they were blown away. My job might actually get easier right now because the bar's been lowered so much. It's like throwing a hobo a ham sandwich. Like it might be easy.
Hobo home sandwich.
A hobo a ham sandwich, yeah. But that would be my like ultimate magic wand thing. Eradicate the third set of hands, and they could have set it. It was possible to set it up that way. It would be possible, but that's not apparently what they wanted. So,
Steve, you're on mute, but go ahead.
I mean, kind of like the family's first principle. I say you take your 7 management companies, you give them a shot at the title, and we need to start lifetime suspensions. I mean, we've got protectionism going on in the industry. It's been going on forever. Everybody's friends. Everybody's sponsoring golf trips and fishing trips and baseball games. And Freddie's great. He's a great guy. All his drivers, they suck ass. But you don't want to say nothing because he's your buddy. You know what I mean? Everybody's covering for everybody, man. And it's bullshit. It's straight up bullshit, man. The way everybody's covering for everybody because everybody's friends. It's not your fault, Mario, that you hired a shithead because the guy came in and sung you a good song and you believed. But get rid of him. Why doesn't your buddy tell you that driver's a shithead? Fire that guy. Nobody does that. No, what they do is they brush your mistakes and they hide them from the next guy, and then they take the stuff and they shove it in the closet, and then the service member doesn't find it for 9 months, and that's why they changed the claims thing. Everybody was pissed because they went past the 75 days on the claim thing, and that's because guys was running around hiding the stuff from the service member. And these people got so much shit going on in their lives, man. When they go to a new duty station, it's like going to a foreign country. I agree. Everybody speaks the same language. We're stateside, and I'm using stateside as the example, but it's a different world. You come from Arizona, you move to Northern Virginia, it's a different world. You go from Northern Virginia to go to San Diego, it's a different world.
What do you think, Isabel? What's your thoughts? Magic wand, how would you fix it?
A magic wand. Well, so now we've entered the time of attrition because we're losing a ton of movers. It's like you mentioned, we're not inviting young people into the industry. And this is only going to make it worse because that median average was already high. And it's going to get even higher because you've got those middle guys who know that they can still start a career somewhere else leaving. So HomeSafe has to come to detente with the industry. That's number one. There's got to be this easing of that tension. They're not essentially revolutionizing anything. And so that's a start, right? Come back to working with those transportation service providers. And then in keeping with like what Adam said, 7, right? And what Steve is saying, less, right? Maybe work with a select number of TSPs, right? Granted, they were one of the larger TSPs in the old program as tier 1, but figure out how to bring the network back in, right? Because it doesn't work without a network. We know that, like those of us that are movers. Yes, containerizing shipments, that's where we're headed, but it isn't where we are today. Because I'll tell you, once peak season hits, I know what no touch looked like last year. The rates were like, tenable. You could go with the flow there. The second that the end of May hit, people couldn't afford containerizing anymore. Those prices went through the roof, right? Because we live in a supply and demand market. So invite those folks back somehow to make sure that you're piecing it together in the right way, but without that additional revenue for those folks, right? That's that hard part, right? You're going to need to provide the revenue that they're going to need to survive. And it might mean that because they've already bid on it a certain way, that they might have to go back and take the hit. I don't think that they'll do that. I mean, Odette is the guy to ask a question like this too, but maybe, I mean, I know that that's what we would do as a company if we were in this position where we knew we had guaranteed revenue in the future, but we needed to sort of lock down the network or lock down the market. I mean, it is how logs grew. We would take the hit to make sure that we could secure the end that we needed, which is good service and a good network. Take the hit for the 1 or 2 years, and then you're going to be able to do a rebid on a contract. If you completely fail or you prove to the government that you're not capable, which if I was an outsider looking in and I promised 100% and then I could only deliver 25, right, in May, that's a failure, right? So like you failed to move 75% of what you said you could. You moved this 25. That looks like a failure. I would not have allowed the company to have ended up in that particular situation. I would have figured out how to do it. I've mentioned before, Amazon worked at a deficit for decades, right? Until they pulled a profit. I mean, that's really how you do it. But the fact that no one was thinking through that problem already doesn't bode well for what we have coming. I mean, it's not like we don't know. It's not like moving doesn't know that no touch is an option. They've done it before, but it's like what we talked about earlier. The market dictates, and those containers start to run short, and then the price goes up, and then the price for labor is about to go up. And do you know why? Because one of our best teams in the DC area yesterday, he was like, hey, so what did the guys charge you to paint your house? Because we're looking at kind of moving out of this and into that. One of the best crews in this area is like, and that's 60 dudes you're going to lose in the DC area if that goes away. Now, some of them might go off and start their own thing. And if you're a Latino crew leader and you're watching, right, this is your moment. And if you're not taking a hold of this moment, right, like reach out to us because we'll help you, because someone else is going to come by and take your moment if you're not careful. But anyway, back to what we're saying. So labor is about to get expensive as well. And so And guys know this. Steve knows this, right? Ernie Pena knows this. Adam knows this. You know this, right? This has happened before. And then you run off all these folks, and the price for the things that you need are going to get more and more expensive. It's like what Steve said. Like we've created a problem because we promised a revolution. But at the end of the day, things get into boxes with human beings, right? And those boxes get loaded onto trucks that take up to the next place. When you add or you change that scenario because you need storage or whatever, you're adding money into that price. And so they say they're saving money on the one hand, but those of us who are in moving understand that when you change the equation, you're just adding into the pile, right? And maybe you're not paying it today, but you're going to pay for it eventually.
No, you know what? For me, I think, like I said, like I think I was saying this on show 1, I always go back to like, let me fix what I can fix. Let me do what I can do. You know what I mean? And you know, like you said, like Steve mentioned about like, hey, yeah, these guys are bad. Well, it starts off because it's like I've been in the business just as long as Steve or even longer. You know, when I first started to move or pack, I couldn't even close a box. It had to be supervised. It's not like that because, again, I'm into training or trying to be, you know what I mean, and structure. And every moving job, unfortunately, in our industry, like most industries, if the plumber comes to your house and he's going to do some work, he turns off the water. If the electrician comes out your house, they'll flip a couple circuit breakers or completely turn off all of them before they work. With a moving crew, there's no set way on how they approach the job. Do you come into the house? Do you lay down floor protection? Do you do the walkthrough first? There might be a standardized procedure for the particular company, but there's no standardized procedure for the industry as a whole. And and then there's no scorecards or no way to track the drivers as they go to company to company. That's why I think that it should be under one umbrella, a training program for everybody. Everyone has to register. Okay, you want to be a mover. I mean, it doesn't have to necessarily be home safe, but it's like, oh, you want to be a mover. This follows you throughout your whole career. So then at that point, but I don't know the legality of it. Like there's other things with it, like state things. You know, like that's just like the wave the magic wand thing, you know.
Let me answer that as a mill spouse, because HomeSafe was approached, right? Was approached with a training program, and they said, kick rocks. We're not interested in that. That's not our problem. That's part of the culture problem that they have. You're telling me that you want to be a single source and you're not interested in one training program that essentially, like, all of the folks who you're going to provide these magic CID numbers for, which I have yet to find a family that said, yes, they sent me in the app the 4 faces of the 4 dudes with their names and their CID numbers, right? That hasn't happened to my knowledge. If it has, I apologize. You know, send me an email. But they weren't interested, Mario, and that's part of that culture problem, right? So, like, you look at industry and you say,
I don't. Sorry,
do it.
Let me just say this. My light went out, so my lighting's bad, guys. But listen, I just wanted to keep it rolling. But I just wanted to tell you that I agree with you. And then on the other hand of it, it's when you start to direct. I mean, like, it could be like a little bit of arrogance, but at the same time, if you start to direct, like, okay, I'm doing training, then all of a sudden it becomes are you a franchise? Are you a contractor? Are you an employee? Because I'm telling you how to run your business. So there's
sometimes, like, moving needs leaders. There aren't enough leaders in the industry. There's a whole ton of, like, armchair quarterbacks and a bunch of
moving absolutely
doesn't have the leadership that it needs, right? Adam and I had a great conversation on problems within the moving industry and, like, things we never talk about, right? It's because we don't have enough leaders who are willing to say, that's a hard line. No, don't do that, right? And so if you're coming out, you're going to revolutionize anything, right? It's not that you have to be involved in the training, but essentially maybe you say, hey, we would prefer if everyone was trained. And then someone or several entities would pop up, right? Because, again, we're America, right? We're a capitalist market. And the answer will pop up when you present the question, right? Like, but if you're not saying, hey, this is what we're going to need, then nobody knows that that's how they need to answer the call, essentially. So they didn't even understand. They didn't understand what they needed, because suits don't understand what it's like out here on the ground, right? And they don't understand, Mario, that, like, there isn't this one way to do it, or, like, it's just stuff in boxes. What's the big deal? No, it is a big deal, because every house looks different, because they're not all carpeted, because some are hardwood floors. Because if you drag a box across a hardwood floor that has a screw underneath it, what did you just do? You caused a claim. But people in the office don't think about that. They just go, it's stuff in boxes, and then we're going to containerize it all. It's just little boxes in a bigger box. But they don't understand, right? Sometimes you have weather, and that container can't, it's got to be parked in a certain, it's just, there's so many iterations of it. And when you have leadership that is wholly uninterested in the experience of the people who do the job, you create a problem, a culture problem that a lot of folks have a very hard time getting past, and especially blue collar, right? You've got a bunch of white collars trying to bridge to blue collar in the absolute wrong way, and it's not going to work. I mean,
no, I agree. I think hold on? Could you? We had like Justin. Could you put it was a question on the screen. You can't tell a contractor how to run his job. Bad movers are teaching bad movers to be bad. That's from the infamous and great Fred Metzler. How are you, Fred?
How you doing, Fred Metzler?
I
But
agree.
Yes, we got
Go ahead,
ultimately,
Adam.
back the truck up, Adam. Back the truck up on him. Go
ul-
ahead.
ul- but ultimately, like going to what Isabella was saying, ultimately training costs money, and ultimately, this all goes back to money. It's really tough to say prevailing wage, right? Again, we'll take Washington, right? Minimum wage up there is $20 an hour. You're going to pay guys $22 an hour to do this work. For that money, you can go sling frappuccinos to hot soccer moms in yoga pants in air conditioning. Like, so ultimately, training costs money. Why you're going to spend money in an industry and for a job where the retention rate is so
All right, I guess
low?
it's my turn since he's out.
Yeah, get
It
in
is.
there.
Go ahead.
All right, so we
What?
got to back the truck up to what you said, Mario, because you said, "Oh, well, am I a franchise? Am I running?" HomeSafe went to U.S. Transcom and said, "We're going to assign jobs. We're not going to have an offer list. We're not going to have a load board. We're going to assign jobs." That's what HomeSafe told U.S. Transcom, which is 100% false at this point. That's proven to not be true. And even in their discussions, in their videos when they were talking, when people asked them, "Can I take this job and turn that job back?" HomeSafe said no. So the argument you may hear in certain circles of you can't provide the training, you can't have the training guide because now you're telling me what to do. They've already said they're telling you what to do. So that's not a valid argument, what you said there, with all due respect, sir, because they're already doing it. They're just doing it to you. They ain't doing it to me. They ain't never going to do it to me. I'll tell you that now. But
No,
when they're
it
loading
was
your
all
truck,
it was all hypothetical. No one's doing anything to me either. I just
sir, yes, sir, I
I'm
apologize. I
yeah,
apologize.
no. It's okay, Stevie.
See, so Steve really does love the customer. Even with us, Steve's like, "What are we doing here? Are we just volume game people, just like everyone else?" So Wendy and I, it's like a fine balance with Steve because he's like, we can only grab as much as we can do quality, but we're just like everyone else. We're having to balance real problems. It's okay, but how do we pay people, right? How do we stay?
Right. No,
You
that's
know,
a big issue with us too.
it's just as
It's
happy.
hard to stay. Oh yeah, it's tough. It's how do you do it? How do you bill it? How do you, it's a lot of the back end stuff. Like the moving is a little bit easier. The back end stuff is hard. And then I got Stephanie Ortega. Also, no one has said, but I'll say it. You either care or you don't, and I can't train you or teach you how to care about what work you put out. You have to be able to recognize and build a team and crew and be quick to get rid of people who do not care or produce anything of value. This is why things haven't changed substantially, because we keep poor quality around. I agree, and that's what I was saying, Steve, Isabel, and Adam, is that like sometimes I like is it us or is it them? It's like what can we control? It's like our industry didn't standardize, our industry didn't have, because if we were in that position, a lady told me one time, it's a good friend of mine, I'll say it too, and it's like we used to work together and we used to say this to each other: if you can't generate, if you can generate, you don't have to tolerate. And if you can't generate, you got to tolerate. And so we have to, as an industry, come together and start to generate, meaning generate quality. Then we don't have to tolerate. See, then we set rules. It's just like, because then we become like the players that are like we become like Juan Soto. 70 million is not enough a season. You know what I mean? Like, it's just because you have this talent. You know what I mean? And that's what I would push out there to all our listeners is like, hey, on we can talk bad about home safe all we want to or whatever. It's like, but the main thing is like, how can we fix us? We care. We're on this webinar. Anybody that's listening, they care. But it's like, how can we improve our game to make it better and like economical and still afford to do it? So I think that's
Mario, I mean, that's exactly like Logs and Mill Moves. Like, we set out to be that one entity that could bridge the two things, right? The customer experience plus the driver, because again, we really wanted to have like happy drivers. So when we started out as we were strictly packing crews, right? That's all we did. And we didn't come from industry. And Stephanie was with us that second year. Here's what we understood. We understood physics and a few basic things, right? And we understood that paper, a whole pack of paper, 25 pounds of paper is cheaper than one Starbucks mug, right? So use a shit ton of paper. What we didn't understand, and Steve taught us this kind of stuff, is like, well, yeah, but if I got to get a second shipment on and you just added, all this volume with all your paper, like that's not going to work for me either. And so it was learning how to balance all those things. And then we set out to be the one entity that cared about the customer and cared about the driver, right? We're just like everyone else this season, right? Like maybe we're on the ropes and having to figure out what we're going to do with our future, because the rate is now so low that even a company like ours that set out to like do something really good, we were not a part of DPS, just so everyone knows, right? And we've never worked with HomeSafe because DPS was that entity that was considered problematic. Of course, I didn't have a ton of like bad moves, right? I had the drunk mover, I had the really sweaty like hungover mover, I had the marijuana mover. I've had all that, right? I've had some broken stuff, but I'm a pretty chill person, so I never made a big deal. I had 2 whole dish packs that didn't show up to Korea. Did I claim them? No, because I don't have time, right, to get my pampered chef stuff. It was expensive stuff. But even those of us who are out here, Mario, focused on what is best for the customer and on quality, even we got caught up in this churn. Because we weren't in DPS and we weren't planning on doing later we weren't planning on GHC. We actually came up because we thought we could work with them at some point before this was awarded to anyone back in 2020. But even we got caught up because now the rate is so low. They've tanked it into the ground that it is really hard even to stitch together the right kind of like no-touch options for customers because those budgets are just not there. So when Steve and Adam say like that the military member is the one that's in a bad way, that's absolutely true. And I'm living proof right now. Like I am doing my own packing because I know that if I were to just bring the crew and make my life easy on me, I can't afford it. I won't have enough.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with you 100% on that.
I mean, pretty soon, basically, the member might be renting it like a horse in a covered wagon or a buggy. Like going back to like the wilderness times, like Lewis and Clark adventure.
It's worse. They sell their stuff. Like I know those young families are like, well, if I can only get the one container, then I'll just get rid of all these things. And then they have to like save money to like rebuy things that they already own. And yeah, granted, a lot of us carry around a lot of stuff that we don't need, right? But like members shouldn't be in a position where they're getting rid of their heaviest and nicest furniture because they're like, I'm not going to have enough money to pay for my move. Or they're like, hey, can I put this on a credit card because we're going to go ahead and pay you because my granddad made this furniture and I don't want it to go with anyone else. So now you've got an E4 family and there's nothing we can do because we've literally scaled it back and made that price as low as possible for them just to try to make it work. And they're still out of pocket. Like it's not good, right? Like definitely something is wrong.
We got Eric James and the post. The same people in the industry go from place to place. All you have to do is to look around to place again. Look around and you'll see the same faces that just go to a new company and there is never any new talent. You know what, Eric? I agree with you like 10,000%, man. That's why I was like saying, hey, like the moving business to me, in some way, shape, or form could have been better. Wow, now that's too bright. I look like I'm like, I don't know, like the lights on me. Maybe it's because it's Easter. Okay, anyway. But I think that I agree, man. I agree, Eric. I think it's like what Isabel said. It's about training and caring. But more than anything, to have a true platform industry-wide that, ATA developed or something like that to say, okay, these are the standards. I mean, they do like ProMover. Everyone's attempted IAM has something, but there's nothing that everybody just had to almost get pushed into. It's a free country. So some people say, I don't want to join that, but I almost think it should be an industry standard. Like you have to do this. You have to, I mean, like I'm a national van lines agent and they enroll us in the, American Trucking Association. Like that's just part of it, like every agent is. And it's a good thing, but they can control that and say, we all have to do this. And then I think we can kind of set standards, within that. And I'm hoping.
your ops guy has to be ensuring that the driver is trained and the driver is training the crews. That's not, it won't happen that way. Like not through those.
No, not on a big scale. Like not to scale. You can't do it like that, because even if they do it, how do they track it? How do they take the progress? Do they have like some certification that you have to be certified, and you have to have tests every year in training? You know what I mean? And I think that that's something that we, you know, as an industry, we really have to push is training. You know what I mean? And then this way, the Steves, the Adams, like, you know, I come back and like he's all gone now, but it's like, you know, one time you can feel one way or another about industry heads, but Dave Grable one time, he was at an open house in Los Angeles at the Grable office down there. And the general manager at the time said, "Hey, don't ask Dave anything about moving. Just kind of keep it, you know, keep it like, you know, like just flat." So I was like there, and the first thing that one of the drivers said is, "Dave, why do you hire all these stupid college kids to be in dispatch and everything? They don't know anything about moving." And Dave Grable pulled out, and he's like, "I actually tried to stop the guy, and and Dave said, stop me." And he said, no, I'll answer. Don't worry about it. He says, "Listen," he says, "you're right." He said, "They're not stupid because they graduated from college." And he said, he pulled out a card. He said, "You know, the reason why I do it is because guys like you," and he pulled out his card, "won't come out of the truck and come into the office and help us out." And he said, "When you're finished," it was like a magician. He pulled the thing out, my light went away again. But I think that, like, yeah, I would love to see, like, Adam, we've known each other for a long time, and I've known of Steve for a long time. I wish that I wish you guys could come out and train and develop and help develop a program, because I think that that's the next step. You know, I know back in the day, Interstate had a nice plan. JK did too. I don't know if I get sued for even mentioning their name, but like they do have a good program, and they're actually actively trying to like do it. And I just wish, yeah, the guys that knew could actually make a wage, you know, like a good living, and actually use their knowledge to help the industry. It's just, it's not set up like that. But I'm pipe dreaming, you know what I mean? Like I'm just spitting it out, and we're having fun on the show. So.
I mean, pretty much we can all agree that really, you had asked earlier on what this summer looks like. Pretty much we can agree 2025 is going to be the modern version of the game Oregon Trail, maybe with US Transcom's logo on the side of it or something. Like pretty much.
Oh wow! Like expand on that to the viewers. Like expand on that.
Well, this ultimate, like home safe, we're not going to go full. I mean, Steve, you feel free, bash away. I'll try to stay as neutral as possible. I didn't like the whole start of the program. At this point, the money in the DP3 system's just as bad. Realistically, since they whacked the fuel surcharge, it's all done. Ultimately, Home Safe is a management company. I come more from a national account background. I worked at a company, one account over my tenure there, 3 different move management companies. Do you know what changed for me? Nothing. Home Safe's another management company. This ultimately falls on Transcom and their decision. Yeah, put it down the side of the covered wagon. They sponsored it. There's going to be, pretty much that's what it's going to be.
Oh wow! All right, that's
bad decision making, and instead of like, hey, as a mover in this industry, at some point, everybody, at least that's decent at their job, has to raise their hand at some point and take response. Hey, mistake, I did it, my fault, I'm sorry. None of that's happened, and it's pretty obvious this was all a mistake. I mean, unless somebody thinks differently, I don't know if anybody that really thinks this has been a good idea. Another question: does anybody think Home Safe is going to hit their 25%? Going back to what Isabel said, who really thinks they're going to hit 25% this peak season?
I have no.
If you were in Vegas, you had 10 grand to put down, red or black. Are they hitting 25% or not?
Yeah, you know what? I don't know, because a lot of people that are saying they're not doing it are doing it. And so like, you know, it's like I was always the fool standing in line, and everybody, whoever wants to volunteer, take one step forward, and I would just stay there, and everybody else would take one step back, and they'd come and shake my hand and say, "Okay, you're going." So I don't know, because like I said, there's a lot of, I mean, there's a term called quiet quitting, where people are working and they've really already quit or moved on, and I think that there's a lot of carriers out there that are not quietly quitting, but they're just like, okay, I'm doing it. I'm not saying anything. I'm stupid enough to say, hey, stick my neck out here and say that. And like I said, got the arrows. Steve like kicked me in the, you know what? And I was like, man, I love it so much. I said, come on the show. Fred, same thing. Fred kicked me so many times like a dog. I said, okay. 10 cup, exactly. But I'm like, hey, I mean, I just think that everyone that needs to hear that is like, you know, hey, we're just at the end of the day, like I said on the first show, is like everybody's just trying to feed their families, and it's like, hey, if I can keep my guys going, we're doing a little bit more COD stuff. We've been working on it for 2 years because I wanted to have a choice, because like I said earlier, if you can't generate, you got to tolerate. And so right now for me, I've got to tolerate. I wish the rates were like better. I'm not a big fan of the throw money at the situation. I am and I'm not, like, so don't get me wrong with that. Anybody from Home Safe hears me, I want the money, but I'm just saying but I'm just saying, like,
say them how they do the job.
Yeah. But we do need it. I mean, I think the industry as a whole does. It just like Adam said, if you, like right now, the winter discounts under the old program at 65% are bad. Like they're not there. It's hard to make it. The fuel surcharge was something that like really affected a lot of companies. So that's where I'm at with it. I think that, I think that's where I'm at with it. I think that, I don't know. Hey, Juan Mata had Juan, can you put Juan's comment back on there? Juan Mata, I've never seen a military hauler driver take as much pride as a national account hauler driver. I've been servicing drivers for years, and I can see the difference. Some even get mad of the quality we bring because we use extra materials or add extra minutes on details. You know what? I might agree with you, Juan, but it comes back down to if you can charge for it. I think that's so it goes back to money. Some of the things Adam and Steve were saying, and Isabel. I think that I think it comes down to a little bit of a cost, and or not knowledge of it, you know what I mean, or not knowing what to do, you know what I mean. So yeah, I would kind of agree with that comment. What do you think about that, Steve?
I mean, I agree with that comment 100%. That's the truth.
Right.
He's absolutely right. The problem is can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Am I clear?
You're clear.
The problem is the military haulers, see, they just wait for the parade to go by and throw them candy. See, they don't have to produce. They don't have to produce because they know in the summertime, Transcom's going to have to use them. And if they do suspend them, it doesn't matter because they'll just work for their buddy. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not sitting here defending DP3 in no way, shape, or form. I have said the entire time, the first time I ever saw Megan Harless on TV on a podcast, and she was on about this and on about that, and everybody was like, she was making valid points. But I said explicitly, the problem is U.S. Transcom. They will not get rid of the bad apples. They will not get rid of the bad apples. And guys sit there and want to crack on the military, and they say they're filthy and all this other stuff. They've got all these different excuses. Military for years, and I don't care what anybody says, way back before we went into DP3, military was paying stupid money when the shipments were 20%. That's absolutely stupid money. Stupid money. Stupid. And the fuel surcharge was actually stupid. And it was absolutely ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous, the fuel surcharge. And when it came time to straighten out the fuel surcharge, didn't nobody want to meet in the middle, and now here we are. Guys was making money off the fuel surcharge, and that is not the purpose of a fuel surcharge. The purpose of the fuel surcharge is to make sure no matter what the cost of fuel is, I make my living wage off the rates. And that's what a fuel surcharge is for. Nothing other. It's not there to make money. It's there to make sure you don't lose money. And we come to this point now where that's all people can. I'm losing. We did it. The industry did it to itself. And it's going to continue to do it to itself. It's going to continue because of the protectionism. It's protectionism here. Nobody wants to meet in the middle on nothing. Everybody's all about what can you do for me? What can you do for me? And there's so many military service members. They're great military service members. Have I had people file fraudulent claims on me? You bet your ass I have. Blatantly lying. Scumbag service member. But I'll tell you what, for that one shitbird service member, I meant 5,000 great Americans that deserve a damn good move. And I'm sick of people saying it's the money. It's the money. Do your fucking job. That's what Juan's saying. Do your job. If you don't want to do a good job, then find a new career. These people don't deserve that kind of treatment when you come in their house. And I say that as somebody who used to be an asshole. I used to be that asshole military mover. I used to be that guy. And I'm ashamed of it. And our service members don't deserve it. And it's not about
what
money.
changed?
Do your job.
What changed you, Steve? What do you think changed your opinion?
I'll
Like,
tell
how
you
did
right
you
now, this is
how did you
square
have
business,
a
straight
epiphany?
square business. I'm gonna put it right out there, man. This kid's mom, she fucking pissed me off. I can't remember why. It was so long ago. That kid had a bunch of models. He had a bunch of models, man, that would have had to go into 4 or 5 or 2 dish packs. And I got all those models into a book box. And I think now, as a father, the emotional distress and punishment I put on that little boy that had nothing to do with how I felt when he opened that box and seen his models, that's what changed my life. That's what made me care. When I go into these people's houses, I care. I don't give a shit if I got to traipse through dirty-ass diapers. I don't care. That's how they live. That's their world. I'm going to treat them with the same respect as somebody who's got a clean-ass house where I could lick the fucking floor. It's their world. Those people are putting their lives on the line for us. For us. If something happens in this, those people got to suit up and go. They can't say no. I quit. They can't. They'll go to jail. Man. They deserve better. I'm sorry. I'm getting excited.
No, that is true. I moved some Coast Guard people once, and I said, man, if in the sea, is it ever so bad that you? And they said, well, in the Coast Guard, we got a saying, you got to go out, but you don't have to come back. And I was like, oh, interesting. Adam, what do you got to say about that? And I'm gonna read Gwen's question.
I mean, part of this too is it's on such a mass scale. A lot of things get painted with a very broad brush.
Exactly.
And, like, again, there's a bunch of scumbags. I've seen it. There's a bunch of good movers in the military program, or there have been. There are. I come from a national account background. The last 2-3 years, I'll say it. I'll give a shout out, dude. RT Relocation. They're doing a really good job on the grand scale. They're doing it. Me as an operator, even in the winter, even when the rates were bad, I was bringing the same guys I'd use on a national account job. I never once said, hey, don't use the paper, don't. So, but industry-wide, it's on too small of a scale, guys operating like that. I'll 100% give you that. I don't know that you can say it just doesn't happen. I tend to disagree with it. But
right, I agree with that. Mm-hmm.
I mean, far too much of it is getting hacked to bejesus, and it is a shame, and it makes it tough for guys that actually want to do the right thing. For that, I agree with Juan.
So Glenn Sturtevant, if the question was answered before, I'm sorry, but this question is for Mario. Oh, that's me. The shipment said, you've hauled for HomeSafe already. Have you gotten any claims? because I haul military and it's a full-time job fighting these false claims. Yes, I have. In some ways, I've gotten some backlash because I've done some home safe jobs, meaning like I've got a member out there right now that won't sign this paperwork. We can't get paid. Nothing we did wrong, but he just won't. Like he's upset, or maybe he was upset at someone else. And, we had an issue where we had a trailer that needed to be worked on. So it didn't leave Virginia for like 8 or 10 days. And we were happy to keep it because I actually had had the misfortune of having a van fire. And I said, oh, if something remotely is wrong with the trailer, I don't want it to go out. And so it took maybe 10 days to get a part. I mean, there's a delay claim. We were a couple of days late on the date that we were supposed to be on, but he was so upset. Now that's been over a month and he won't sign his paperwork. So, I mean, but I don't think that was really us being late as much, Glenn. I think it was like a lot of people are upset at the program, and we've gotten claims because people don't like the program. Or I actually went out to a gentleman's house at I forget, it's Camp Parks out in Dublin, California. And he said to me, man, I guess he saw my other webinar. He's like, hey man, and it was a home safe job. And I actually went out to do on site because he didn't want to do like a virtual. And he said, oh man, weren't you on that website? And so we talked about it. And I said, I'm the same guy that would come out on any program. I care. And he's like, yeah, they said you wouldn't come. And I was like, no, man. I mean, like, if we can do it, we'll do it. You know what I mean? But that goes back to what Adam says and what Steve says. I always cared. I cared at a fault. You know what I mean? Like I cared to do the job right, even when it didn't pay to do the job right, because that's just how it is. And I struggle. As a company, we're a little company. I wish that things would work out better for us. But the same people that are the legacy people, very few have come. Like I said, I give national props and said, hey, Mario, we've got this account. Be a partner for us. Some of it's agency stuff, that they can, and some they just won't recognize us, and it doesn't really matter. It's like I built a company from zero to, in some years, like almost $8 million. But like they look at me and they're like, no. I mean, for whatever reason. But I'm out here trying, and all we can do is keep on going. So Glenn, yeah, I think I did get a few more claims, but I think they're backlash claims more than anything. I think that because there's so much negative press about HSA, I think they're just doing, like some are like ridiculous and some are just like industry stuff that we've all gone through. I don't know, but I would say maybe a little bit more, maybe the same, maybe just a tad more. But like if I got a claim on 10% or whatever, something like that, it's like 12 or 13, which is a big increase. You know what I mean? At 13, it's a 30% increase if I was doing that. But I would say it's there. Yeah, probably a little bit more because of the negative press. And like Adam said, we come in, some are angry, but like Adam said, he just did a job and the guy was ecstatic and the inspector was, like kind of surprised. He was at, I think you were Andrews Air Force Base.
I was at Andrews.
And the TMO was surprised, like, oh, you guys have rug runners down? You guys have, and it's like, we're the same movers.
It's industry. They keep pointing the finger, but it's like, it's the same dudes doing a good job. Our industry, it's the same dudes that have been here the whole
time. So I hope that answered your question, Glenn. And if anybody has another question, they can put my cell. I'm not afraid to whatever. I get a lot of calls from like collectors, but as thing 818-519-8770 out there, my son's going to kill me for doing that because I get enough calls. But anybody that ever wants something, you can call me or someone on this call. If you're a military member, reach out to Isabel. She's got my cell number. If you're an industry guy, somebody that knows me, just call me. I'm not going to say I answer all the time because I'm always in a meeting or something or getting pulled a certain way. But if you call me and then text me, I'll get to you one way or another. And if you have another question, I'm more than happy to answer. So I hope that answered your question, Glenn. So listen, we're going to wrap this thing up, but I'm going to go around the horn. And I just want let me see. I don't have any particular question. I just want a closing question on what you would say to everyone out there that's listening, everyone that's going to be on your own social media. If you could leave them with one particular thing about this whole situation, what would it be? Got to start off with the lady. Isabel first.
I think it's important that if you are moving this summer and you're a military family, that you advocate for yourself. If you don't know what that looks like or you need help advocating yourself, definitely reach out to our team. You can find us at logsandmillmoves.com. We're Logs and Mill Moves on Facebook. But if you don't know the form or you don't know how to advocate for yourself to get a better rate, we know how to do those things, and we're more than happy to share that information with you.
And then the next person is Jaft. Steve Jaft, I want to thank you for coming on. And what's your closing comments, sir?
Sorry for getting so excited.
Oh, no, that's what, listen, that's what it's about. Like, listen, my life went on, my light went on, off. I've got a friend of mine, Mark Hershey. He has Movified podcast. This thing is all beautiful and everything. Got to put out a shout out to him. So any industry guys, listen to Movified. He's funny as hell. TM from Canada, Let's Get Moving. He has a little podcast going. I got a few other friends. Listen to theirs. It's good stuff, but like their production is much better than mine. How I'm here, I don't know if you guys can see it. I said, my son was like, hey, don't let anybody see the liquor. And I'm like, well, running a company, I need it. So, no. but like, I'm just trying to be like not normal, but I'm not trying to do a big production. I'm just trying to tell the truth and try to give real information to everyone out there and just try to be genuine. And that's why I said, those guys, like God bless them. It's like, I put out my personal cell number out there. I don't care, because it is what it is. And my email is mario@sbmoving.com. You can email me. It'll get to me. And my chief of staff is Z Legas, Z as in zebra, Legas @sbmoving.com. And if you have a question, I'll try to answer it the best I can. I tried to help a lady. She was not anything to do with me. It was the trouble getting an overflow sent. And I just tried to do the best I could, but I checked and I checked and I pushed and I pushed. That had nothing to do with me. But I think a little bit I helped out because it was totally off the radar, and at least I pushed it on the radar, and that's pretty much it. Adam, close it out, baby.
My advice, everybody buckle up. It's gonna be a rough summer. There's gonna be a lot of confusion. I think everybody's gonna have to be a little bit more adaptable to change. And this is in an industry that movers haven't been great at change. Movers have, and the industry has been very, well, that's the way we do it. And that's the way it is. And the national account volume's down. The COD market's an absolute disaster. The military thing's going to be rough this summer. And I think everybody's going to have to adapt a little bit and be a little bit willing to change. I'm wishing everybody the best. Buckle up. It's gonna be a wild one, and it's gonna be a short one. My guess. Hopefully,
I love it, Adam. I love it.
I'm hoping I'm wrong, but I think it's gonna be short and save your money and be willing to change.
No, you know what, Adam? I think that was very well put. I mean, I think that like as a country, we're into change. It doesn't matter like left, right. I would have everybody that's listening. Before I stop, because I'm like a little ADHD. Ralph Avila, can you put that last comment on? Anybody that like comments, I really wanted to tell you thank you. But I think Justin, can you put the last comment on, or Shane? Ralph, Ernest Penny, I just helped her drive all week, 3 separate nights. They said it's the best service ever. Thank you, Ernie. Yes, definitely, Ralph. That was some passion, some good stuff. Thanks for throwing that out there, Ralph. Yeah, I do think that I agree with Adam. Things are going to change, and for good or for bad, and we've all adapted to everything. But what I will say to everybody is that in 2017, Bill Gates did an interview, and you guys can look it up. It's called The Robot Tax, right? And Bill Gates at that time said that in 2017, he said 40% of the jobs in America became automated. 2017. What is that ratio right now? So we're in a real economic stuff, but he was into universal income, and he said that we should have a robot tax, that every job that's been displaced should be, the taxes should go for a universal income wage. But it's an interesting article because he said it in 2017. He said 40% of the jobs in America. And then they kind of asked him, well, why don't they do it? He's like, because it would disrupt the whole country. And so that's 7-8 years ago, where we are with automation. 7 years ago, no one heard of ChatGPT. It was it's, what is it, 4.0 now? Well, how long ago was 1.0? It probably was back then. We just didn't know about it, you know, and we're into some changes, but that's everywhere. That's every industry. That's just not us. So for the industry people that think we're different, no, I don't think we're different. I really don't. I think that we're in a broad sweep, and we, just like Adam said, strap up, and we're going to get through it. We've been through more things as a nation, a people, a family. We've experienced death, loss of whatever. We are resilient to handle any change that comes this way. Just remember that. And that's pretty much it. So to everybody out there, to my guests, thank you for coming on. Anybody that's listening, if I didn't name you or didn't thank you, blame my head, not my heart.
Thanks for having us.
All right.
Thanks for having us. Good, Mario.
Thank you.
Only in America, baby. All right.
That's the truth.